Foxfire Ranch is on the ancestral homelands of the Chickasaw people in what is now northern Mississippi. Before the Chickasaw arrived, mound builders constructed many earthen mounds along the length of the Mississippi River. The Chickasaw people migrated to this region from west of the Mississippi River, sometime around the year 1300. We appreciate all that the Chickasaw people contributed to the bounty and ecology of this place. We acknowledge that the Chickasaw people would have continued to steward this land according to their ancestral practices had they not been forcibly removed in the 1830s. We acknowledge that the U.S. government violently removed the Chickasaw Nation to Oklahoma. These are just some of the shoulders we stand on. Wherever we stand in solidarity with the Chickasaw people and indigenous people everywhere. From the river to the sea. This is We Are the Promised Land. I'm free for all. Welcome. Every square inch of soil is an intergenerational congregation, a choir of minerals mixed in among the living and the dead, harmonizing to feed the community within and around. Everything we call soil was something else before, be that bedrock, berries, bodies, or bacteria. When geologists talk about the stuff before the soil, they call it parent material. They say that soil inherits its structure from these ancestors. Particles compress into rock, erode with rain. They integrate with plants, are eaten, made into manure. They take up with new plants, new bodies, plants again. What do these particles maintain from each age? Can we call that memory? Can we say soil teaches, whispers encouragement for seeds to root, for roots to dig? The stalks grow tall, bloom and wither. They disintegrate and reconfigure. They return to the congregation to feed the future's flowers. Is that loving somehow? There is a unique power in the collective of soil. How the skin slough of the earth becomes such a buzz of abundance, a habitat for worms and ants, for fungus and bacteria. A gram of soil can hold billions of tiny creatures, a microscopic galaxy orbiting the core of the earth. In 1919, Albert Hollowell bought the parcel in Waterford, Mississippi that would become Foxfire Ranch. He might have grown up there. From census records, we can determine that the Hollowells were at least nearby since 1870, though it's hard to say where they lived exactly. What we do know is what's on the deed. Albert paid $550 for the 80 acres we call Foxfire now, which sounds like a song, I know, but back then you might have earned $0.25 a day picking cotton. Albert made most of his money snaking logs with a team of mules, hauling them from the sawmill in Taylor Bottom. He married, had 3 children, Curtis, Hannah, and Sylvester. His first wife died, then Sylvester in the war. Hannah was lost to an illness. Actually, I'll let Bill tell this one. Good people, Bill Hollowell.
My father had a family, had a couple kids Because he was in his 50s. He was around 53, and she was
23.
22, something like that.
That second voice you hear there, fact-checking, that's Bill's wife, Annie.
So, my mom said she was at church one Sunday, and she'd asked him where his daughter was. She was friends with his daughter. And he said he made some kind of snide remark to her that you don't watch out, you have a ring on your finger.
So you took that from your dad, right? You took that's your dad quote. You used that same quote on me.
No.
He did, okay?
She's lying.
No.
Okay, let me finish that.
You're going to look in the mail one day, you're going to see a ring. I'm thinking, really? And no shit, 2 weeks later, there was a ring.
Okay, but anyway, but he was older and fathered 6 kids. And he passed
No, your
away.
mother said that Mr. Hollowell came over to the house, and her father thought he was coming to see him, but no, he was coming to see Wilmer, his mother.
Yeah. She tells the story that her dad was sitting on the porch. She'd invite him over, and he said, "Hey, Brother Hollowell, how you doing?" He was in a rocking chair, and she came out and said, "Come on in, Mr. Hollowell, come on in." He said her dad was. How you leaned back, he just fell back. His chin fell all the way back and hit the floor. And when my dad walked on in the house.
Was not expecting that.
Bill is the fourth of Albert and Wilma's 6 children. Both parents supported the family. Wilma always worked in the fields with the kids, making sure they had food to eat. Albert worked in the mill for years, until a shard of wood flew into his eye, an infection set in, and soon he was blind. Unable to work as he had, Albert invested his energy into the farm and into tending his younger children.
Like I said, my dad had planted an orchard and everything. I can still remember cherries, and he had it all. He had a fruit orchard. It's a real deal fruit orchard.
Cherries and apples.
Apples and peaches and plums. We had pears.
Mm-hmm.
And then, of course, you had your vegetables and the cotton and stuff. The cotton and corn and sorghum.
Albert was known for his skills with animals. He didn't drive, so sometimes he'd walk out to the road to flag down a ride into town when he needed to run an errand. But he also rode a horse sometimes. He was a sharp dresser and a straight shooter. All his children, all over 60, remember him with a kind of sparkly admiration. He became an ancestor in 1961, when Bill was just 9 years old. A few years after Albert passed, Wilma married another farmer, Charlie Faulkner, who they all called Mr. Charlie, and the family moved to his farm in nearby Holly Springs. That's where Bill and Annie met.
She mentioned she lived on a sharecropping place, and we owned a farm right next to that, adjoining them. And I always tell people, I think we probably met a little bit different than this, but we were in a watermelon patch one day. I was down there checking on some watermelons, and they were down there taking the watermelons. But I think it was her sister that I caught in the watermelon patch.
Because I don't remember that story.
She just said hi and ran, ran
hi.
like hell out of a watermelon patch, But they were taking our watermelons every chance they got. We knew it. We kept trying to catch them. That and sweet corn. They'd get our corn too. But it wasn't a big deal.
Because you had plenty. You had plenty.
No big deal, but...
So, and how old were y'all with that?
Probably about 10 years old.
Bill and Annie are a snappy comic duo when they want to be. Bill is the straight man who loves to laugh, and Annie is the zinger who keeps him honest. Like so many couples who have been together for so long, they rib each other with precision and edit the other's stories.
I used to think that my husband and his stepfather are big shots, okay? Because we walked like a mile, 2 miles to catch the bus. they ride to school on the back of a truck, and they never stop to pick us up, whether it's cold or rainy or anything. Okay?
I don't know about
so
that.
they was up class. They was up on the hill. We was like down on the hill. Okay, I don't know how we hooked up as husband and wife. Okay, because I hated that atmosphere. I didn't. If it was storming outside, they would just pass us and keep on going. Okay, and we would say, "Look at that Negro."
I'll tell you from my perspective, there was a little bit of a competition among black folks back then that, you were a little bit better if you had your own farm. Mm-hmm. There were the people that were sharecroppers, and then there were the black farmers that had their own farm. But most all the farms, and I was just thinking about this, all the farming in that area was done by black people. Mm-hmm. Even when the machinery started to take over, when we grew up with mules and the horses. I grew up plowing mules, but when they started to buy tractors, if a white man owned a big farm, he bought tractors and equipment, but the people operating the equipment were always ended up being black folks. You didn't see white men driving tractors. Mm. You see it today in the Delta and but it was black folks driving tractors. And my old man would always say, well, look at him on that white man's tractor. You better slow that white man's tractor down. He'd say, but your guy would be out on the tractor driving down the road. He'd be wide open. And he'd say, yeah, I'll be acting a fool on that white man's tractor. But anyway, that was the way that was a little bit of the competition. So, but when you talk about our relationship to the land, her family, there were 14 of them, and they did a lot of harvesting cotton. They picked 300-400 pounds a day. Her sister could 460 pounds. They pick a lot of cotton, chop a lot of cotton, raise a lot of sweet potatoes and white potatoes, corn, peas, and all that stuff. And so we knew all about farming, and I grew up the same way. We was 6 in my family, and we had to plow and till and everything. But to make a long story short, when we weren't in school, we were farming. And even when we were in school, we had chores in the evenings to come home and do. And sometimes in the morning, we'd do a little plowing when during daylight saving time. Mm-hmm. When it got daylight early, we'd do a little work before the bus came to pick us up. I had traveled a little bit as a teenager. I joined the military at a young age, 17. I didn't get along well with my stepfather. Mm-hmm. I had to get the hell out. So somebody had to go. It was me. So, but anyway, when I was 17, I joined the Marine Corps, and my first assignment was Camp Lejeune, then Hawaii. Then I stayed in Hawaii for a few months and went to Vietnam.
When Bill came back from Vietnam, he was 21. Annie was 20. They got married, and after a stint in law enforcement in Holly Springs, Bill joined the Army. Bill's military career took the Hollowells all over the world. When he retired, he was a lieutenant colonel. Throughout all that time, Bill and Annie brought their children back to Mississippi most summers to visit Wilma and Mr. Charlie, and Annie's huge family, the Nunleys. The other Hollowells, Bill's brothers and sisters, all lived in Cleveland by now.
Ultimately, I guess we lived so many different places, and I was in a position with the military retirement that I would always have an income for the rest of my life. Mm-hmm. So I could much easier come back and take over the farm. I bought the farm, bought the other siblings out of it because my father had passed away. My mother had it, and each of us had a child's portion, and they were willing to sell me their portion. Yep.
I never imagined living in Mississippi. I thought once we left, we wasn't going to ever come back again. Yeah. No, I anticipated living in a big city like New York, walking out the brownstone, going down to a concert, doing this, Central Park, the whole 9 yards, okay? Right. Never imagined living in Holly Springs, Mississippi. But the thing is, the land stayed on the market for about 40 years.
Oh, okay.
Not on the market. I'm sorry. It was vacant for about 40 years. Okay, and when we bought it back in 93 or whatever, whenever it was, we couldn't even get in there. We had to cut our way in through the kudzus and the trees and things to find a spot to build a house. And it was amazing how it had grown up, and the farm haven't been worked in how many years, Bill?
Yeah, no, it's probably 50 years.
Yeah.
Close to 45, 50 years.
Yeah.
Mississippi is naturally a densely forested place. Oaks, pines, and bald cypress populated the plots the family once farmed. They leased the land to hunters, some of whom may have started the fire that burned the small family house to the ground. Or it could have been crackheads, as Bill suspects, or both. Regardless, when they arrived back in Waterford about 20 years ago, they had their work cut out for them. They brought in cattle to chew through the fortress of grasses and kudzu that had grown up around the trees. They took out some trees, put in a couple ponds, built a small house, and then added to it. Then they built a pavilion in time to host their family reunion. And with that little bit of infrastructure, they started hosting shows. Bill and Annie are supposedly retired now. Both of them are over 70. The ranch is their constant occupation. Watching them work, I've come to think of them as the tortoise and the hare. Annie, who the family calls Big Mama, is clearly the hare. She spins around the kitchen, cooking up storms of catfish and cornbread and greens, whooping and hollering all the way.
Yeah, all that good shit,
She also mows the huge expanse of lawn that rolls across the property's hills, tends the flowers, does laundry, and keeps the house and cabins impeccably clean, with help from her sisters and brothers and nieces and such. Having watched this family do business together for all these years, I can tell you that they are subject to all the same dynamics as families and businesses everywhere. And whenever I catch them in action, it's like watching a choreographed dance or a really great baseball game. The way everyone moves with purpose and precision toward a state of harmony. The whole family contributes to making the gears go round. And usually they have a good time. When things are slow enough, they come out from behind the counter and hit the dance floor or play checkers or cards. Annie and her sister Connie are often in the kitchen together, laughing and singing when they're not too slammed. At times, they appear to move with a single mind.
Sometimes we don't like each other, but we love each other. Okay. Even sometimes I don't like Connie, but I love her. Okay, and I'll tell them. Okay, I'm not too proud. Okay, I'm not too proud to tell you. Well, yeah.
Don't step on my feet.
I'll tell her, get out of my damn head. Get out of my freaking head. Okay, And even in this kitchen, I'm looking at her doing something. She said, get out of my head. I got this. Okay. She's thinking right along with me. We're on the same sheet of music, and that's how we get things done. Okay, yeah. And when she's not here, I'm kind of lost because he don't know the kitchen. Okay, he don't know how to do a lot of things. But I'll just take control and just do it my way. Okay, teamwork.
Yeah.
Teamwork. Okay.
Yeah, Sayla. Little Sayla yesterday, I was standing here and somebody came up and wanted to buy a cup of coffee and was handing me $1. And I was like, I don't work here. I don't know what
She took it.
She was like, free. And I was like, I thought that she must be trying to get my attention for something else. And then I look over and she's opening the cash register and taking this $1 out of my hand, putting it in the cash
That's my
register.
baby. That's my baby.
Yes.
Okay.
Bill is the tortoise of the twosome. He moves slow and steady, maintaining a state of constant activity. When there's an event on the property, you can find him tending to whatever may need tending to. Bathrooms, parking, heaters, horses. Between events, he's often got some project he's working on. Construction or clearing land with a controlled burn. They entertain guests most weekends of the spring, summer, and fall. Other than the blues shows, 2 Sundays a month, they host whatever comes to them. Weddings, quinceañeras, the Diamondbacks Motorcycle Club annual bash. Oh yeah, Bill gets on good with the good old boys. Many of them are veterans and respect his military experience. He blends in well, wearing the same colors, don't run, blue lives, don't tread on me, energy drink logo sweatshirts they do. Annie is comfortable most of the time. They can handle pretty much anybody, the Hollowells. They make themselves at home with whosoever should arrive, and they always invite their guests to do the same.
We have a love for people.
That's the way we were raised. I think it's the way we were raised, and I'm not. We were always accepting of people, and it's something about being in Mississippi, or from Mississippi. If you grew up here in Mississippi,
You were taught well.
You learn that there's a built-in mechanism that keeps you from being ugly to people, or being an ugly person. And something that flashes in my mind is that when I came home from Vietnam, I had a little brother that had the flu. We thought he had the flu and pneumonia. So I took him to the doctor's office, and back then they had stopped the segregated areas, but this doctor had a white waiting area and a black waiting area. They were right across from each other. You could see people, but you black had to sit on this side, your white sit on this side. But what I want to say, though, is that when it came time for my little brother to see the doctor, he went in, he's wearing a pair of jeans. The doctor said, "Oh, I tell you what you need, boy, is a good penicillin shot." And he gave him the shot through his pants. Mm. He stuck the needle through the jeans and gave him the shot. And that flashed in my mind. So I don't harbor hatred for that kind of thing. But it's experiences, excuse me, like that sort of formed that sort of got us where somebody come out here gay or transsexual or something like that. I'm not going to give them a shot through their genes, you know. I treat them the same way as everybody else.
Exactly.
But
over the years that Bill and I have traveled in the military, we have created other families beside our immediate family. So we have learned to love, accept, and adapt. So that's what we're doing now here at Foxfire Ranch. We're going through that changes all over, that situation all over again. And we're good at it. We're good at it, okay? And we don't let a lot of stuff bother us. Life is too short. We're here to have fun.
I realized that my analogy about the tortoise and the hare suggests a binary scale of valuable collaboration in the realm of land stewardship vis-a-vis the Hollowells. You know? Like, it kind of suggests that Foxfire is a machine operating with 2 gears called Bill and Annie. However, Foxfire is a body of clay, soil, white oak and pine, blackberries, and kudzu. It is fueled by good food, corn liquor, loud music, late nights. It is a place for getting down and breaking bread. It is a place for family. Annette is one of Bill and Annie's 2 daughters. Since 2018, she's played at least an equal hand in the family business. She is the vibe curator, the ambassador, the host. She handles a lot of the booking and such. She has a strong vision for Foxfire, one that honors the local tradition of Black land as a space to incubate and uplift community. Annette's communities are across the South and far beyond it. And she wants to make Foxfire a space that is useful to all of them.
it's an interdependent thing. I'm not doing this alone. I have no desire to do this alone. I can't do this alone. And that takes time. And so, like, it's not going to take, like, a ton of time, but it's like, you know, it's gestation.
Yeah.
Here's this baby. And then there's, like, this whole other life a reality that exists that, like, I've helped bring forth that I do not control and that I'm here to steward. And so, like, I'm just really excited about, like, cultivating that. And as more people come there and they bring what they want to do and we start to do it from that space, like, I don't know what that looks like and I don't have to. And I'm cool with that. I just want to set the conditions.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that it can all happen. So I think it's a little bit different than what my parents are doing and have in mind.
What do you think your parents are doing and have in mind?
So my parents, Bill and Annie, and it's funny because my friend Rosa, we got together and we were talking and chilling and talking about Foxfire stuff, and she's like, you know, your parents are so, what'd she say? Your parents are so cheap. They charge you nothing and give you everything. And I was like, put it on a shirt. And then there's another one. She's like, what'd she say? Because they're not in it to make money. They just want to have a good time. You know? It's like, they're on some level that is true, you know? Yeah. Like, and I think what's different about my vision for it is, like, I want to do that. And I want the offerings that we bring in to be some that speak to our culture and where we come from and has that rootedness to the hill country and blues traditions of faith and this, like, ethereal kind of struggle and all of that, you know? But, you know, like, to talk about liberation and talk about freedom and talk about justice and just, like, you know, and all of that, and, like, and be able to do that in a way that doctors to us and works on us and also plants things in our children. And, like, because this is where my children are and this is where other people are bringing their kids, and this is where I want to, as community, I want us to be able to bring our whole lives and selves to spaces and do work like that, you know, without it always feeling so tightly structured. So I think that layering in an analysis to what we're doing out there and layering in a real intention around like liberation and like a really liberated and free space where everybody can be is something that's different from them. I think they'll rock with it, but I think that they don't necessarily know what that is. And especially for my, like, you know, Army officer father, retired police chief, you know, Blue Lives Matter, like, you know, bootstraps kind of guy, that is harder for him to agree with intellectually and to necessarily grasp in our discussions. And, like, all I got, like, I'm just like, don't believe me, just watch. That's all. You know, like, you'll see, they'll come. You'll see who will come, you know, which has been their experience of, like, me and the people and my work and the communities I've been a part of and the people that have been coming there over the last 18 years as a result of, like, this connection, you know? And so, yeah. So I think, like, I think it's a typical, healthy, normal divide that's generational, that's, you know, parent-child, that's old school, new school, you know, like all of that is there. Yeah, and it's okay. And, like, and that there's something to hold in that, and that's something that we have to navigate in all of our spaces. And this is just how I have to navigate it in this one, you know? So, yeah.
Yeah.
I was telling her, and I say this, she's telling me it didn't happen. But when I was thinking about buying this land from the rest of the siblings, I talked to my father, in just as clear in a dream or something. I talked to, saw him just.
No, your word was, I had a premonition.
No, I talked to him just as clear as. Almost as clear as a veil. I remember that. No lie.
And what do you remember? Well, like, what was the gist of it?
He told me to buy it, to get it.
I'm gonna say this one more time. That's a damn lie.
Wait.
We was in Saudi Arabia. We was in Saudi Arabia, okay? This was back in when, though? 90?
93.
No, 90. We bought the property in 90. So it was back in 90.
I gotta listen to this.
So you're damn right. But anyway, this is what happened. We came home. The land has been on the market for 3 years and nobody purchased it, okay? So we went back to Saudi. Yeah, it was on about 3 years because we would come down here every year to visit, okay? And so
it went on quite 3. It probably on the market for a year. About a year.
She liked to exaggerate a little bit.
Okay. Well, let me.
We'll fact check you later.
Okay.
So then it was on the market.
It was on the market. Okay. So we went back to Saudi. I said, Bill, we was talking one night. I guess about 3:00 in the morning. I said, why don't we just go ahead and see, can we just buy everybody out? Okay. He said, that sounds like a wonderful idea. Yeah, that sounds like a wonderful idea. And so 3 months later, and 3:00 in the morning, I said, what, Bill? I had a premonition. What kind of premonition? My dead father came to me in a dream. He said, McKinley, go ahead and buy him out. I said, you're a damn lie. I told you I had done it 3 months ago.
So he said he confirms what he was thinking.
Yeah,
Like,
both
he
those
gave
things
him
can be true.
Approval.
Yeah. But he always, I tell him something, I swear. It's funny. I'll tell him something and it makes sense. He doesn't act on it and then come right back and do exactly what I tell him. I said, now that's a damn shame.
Smart man.
Huh?
Smart man.
Girl, okay. Okay, now watch it. Okay. Anyway, I told you. How's it go? So, I told you. Hey, Annette. Oh, you got back. Oh, 3 months ago.
If soil is an archive of parent material stretching back thousands of years, then so too are these bodies, cobbled together from infinite ancients who left something behind. Sometimes the soil yields crystals, which we keep and swoon over. Sometimes parent materials need time to compost. Annette and I have been gathering recordings for years now. There's a range of family events and one-on-ones, also some real fly-on-the-wall type shit. So, on a beautiful day in early January, a day so perfect in New Orleans that the neighbors could not resist doing construction next door, Annette and I sat down to listen to a quilt I'd made for her, composed of highlights from all the audio we've collected about her paternal grandparents, Albert Hollowell and Wilma Gwynn Hollowell Faulkner Jones. I say about because we don't have too many clips of them. Well, we don't have any of Albert. But we have a few of Wilma. This is from her 99th birthday.
You want to say anything, Grandma? You have anything to say?
That's all.
Welcome. How special.
You want to stand, you said? What you say?
I understand it's somebody.
Somebody else's birthday? Whose birthday is it?
Her grandkids.
These are live birthdays. We celebrating yours. What's the secret to making it to 99? What's your secret?
Yes.
I ain't got nothing special.
Nothing special?
You holding out.
You holding out.
So should we start? 1, 2, 3. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday.
The next year, the Hollowells celebrated 2 centennials.
Yeah, so 2019 marks the 100-year anniversary of the securing of the deed for the land. My grandfather signing the deed and purchasing the land that's known as Foxfire now. And then it's also the year that my grandmother, Grandma Wilmer, my dad's mom, was born. You know, she was born in 1919. The land came into the family in 1919. So even just, you know, like when you think about the pace of nature or the pace of progress or the pace of like what it takes to cultivate the land or build a life on land. Mm-hmm. It's like, okay, they had a not tar paper shack, but they had a simple house mm-hmm. where they stored cotton in the middle and 2 rooms and, you know, and they grew everything that they needed. And that was 40 years later, mm-hmm. you know? I always liked thinking about her as a marker mm-hmm. of the land, like for a context that I can kind of wrap my mind around, mm-hmm. Or that we seem to have more information around. I think she blew him out with her mind. It's like, out.
The first time I interviewed Annette, when we had known each other for about a week, she explained her grandparents' courtship this way.
She said she saw him somewhere in town or something like that. And he basically said something to her like, you know, you keep walking around here like that, you're going to find a ring on your finger. Or something like that. Or don't go walking around here without a ring on your finger. You know, some like old misogynist, like, you know, aggressive, you know, sexual 1930s, 40s type shit, right?
I'm glad you're calling it like
that.
Yeah,
yeah.
I feel like that.
This 50-year-old man sees my fine 23-year-old grandmother and tells her, you know, don't go walking without a ring on your finger, you know? And I mean, when I talked to her about him, because she's been married 4 times, and you know, and Miss Wilmer be like, you know, and Wilmer ain't killed now one of them. The good Lord took every last one of them. But she talks about Albert Hollowell and said that he always treated her just like a doll.
Quick fact check: Annette misspoke. Wilma had 3 husbands, not 4. I asked Annette rather ungracefully after listening to this clip what she thought Wilma saw in Albert. Truly, though, I was curious about whether Annette's perspective on her grandparents' courtship had changed in the years since we first started talking.
I do remember when I was engaged and getting married, and I was like, oh, you know, this is Hamilton, and telling her about him, and he's white and stuff like that. I remember her response and reaction being, you can't help who you love. So I assume it's that, you know? I mean, I think he was her friend's father, mm-hmm. so there's probably some familiarity already, you know? I mean, like if I'm honest, I'd like to think it was a love connection, but I think it was probably security, stability, familiarity that grew into love. Mm-hmm. Well, who knows? Maybe they might have had a strong connection out the gate. I don't know. Mm-hmm. Yeah. I wish I'd asked her more about that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
When the family had gathered in Cleveland to commemorate Wilma's 99th year, Annette interviewed a few family members about her. Here, Uncle Al, Bill's older brother, and Wilma's 3rd child, takes the lead, with backing vocals by his wife, Mattie, Annette, and her parents, Bill and Annie.
Yeah, he treated her like she was just another child, pretty much. Mm-hmm. You know, he was, and she was. She was, compared to his age, she was, but, you know, like I said, Dad was just such a cool, I remember him as just being the coolest man. He's still my hero to this day.
Yeah.
He's the coolest old dude I know.
He looked like he's a cool.
Oh, he's cool.
Looks so
I remember Mama doing a grandstand. They getting this little argument. He said, yeah, I put my Stetson hat on your table. I messed my head up. I had to send it to get it pressed. She said, when I married you, you didn't have no chickens.
Didn't have a chicken on
You
it.
didn't have a chicken. You didn't raise this. Like I said, she's a farmer at heart. Yeah. Sit down.
I'm glad for that little clip and that little kind of ribbing. Because I mean, especially at a time where I'm sure it's like, you know, a woman's role is to, you know, keep a clean house and farm and have children and take care of the children and cook the meals and all this other bullshit, you know. And so I feel like it's also permission that like we can let some things go.
Yeah.
It was like I've let laundry go. Piles of clean laundry that hasn't been put away for months. But anyways, and like that ribbing is just like, you know, we don't demand perfection of each other. You know, it doesn't mean we can't tease you a little bit about like your imperfections or your, you know, limitations on some things or whatever it is. But yeah, I think that's cute. When I met you, you didn't have chickens. You didn't know how to raise chickens. Like, shit. You can't do what I do. I might not be cleaning the house, but look what I am out here doing, you know? End of conversation.
Yeah.
You know?
Annette grew up visiting Wilma, not at Foxfire, but at the home in Holly Springs that she shared with her second husband, Charlie. It was always an exciting place to be. Well into her 80s, Wilma was growing food and tending livestock and teaching her grandchildren how her generation lived.
She taught us all the same things. She, you know, I think the only time I've ever picked eggs was out at her house. She always had her chicken coop behind the house and everything like that. Some of my earliest memories of being out there is like going out to the chicken coop with her and picking eggs. You know, you reaching up to grab the egg. I can't see in there. I can't see if there's snakes in there. It's part of like the fun and the fear of visiting the country. Like, ooh, there's snakes, you know, frogs that you hear at night, and it's dark at night, and you can't see the stuff, and you know, it's exciting, but like scary, but like kind of exhilarating. Gardening and farming and stuff like that too. I remember being out there with her in her rows, planting stuff and picking stuff. I love that too. First time I shot like a rifle was out there on the land with her. She showed me how to shoot a rifle and walking through the pasture picking blackberries. We would I don't remember if I went fishing with her. I probably did go fishing with her at some point. I remember fishing with my godmother. But we would get the fish and she would show us how to scale it, cut it open and show us the organs. You know, so like a little anatomy lesson so we could see all those parts and the you know, the organs and the pieces that you take out and stuff like that. She taught me how to churn butter, taught me how to milk a cow. The only time I've milked a cow has been with her. Or attempted to milk the cow. She, you know, she made preserves and she taught me how to make safety pin bracelets, which are really beautiful. Like all of these like crystal-looking beads. I remember I saw a magazine, maybe something like Cosmo or something, and they were selling like these safety pin bracelets for like hundreds of dollars. I was like, God dang, you know, like she taught me how to like sew buttons on always clothes. Quilted. So you could always come and see what she was working on. I feel like maybe we probably helped her on some quilts or something, maybe, or maybe she just gave us scraps to kind of sew together and play with. She made so many quilts for so many people. Like she used to make us dresses. I still have a dress or two from her that she made for Selah and everything. I wish I had the dresses she made for us, you know. And that would just be, you know, being out of the house with her and sitting and feeling the time. You know, probably the time that now, like, we fill the screens or iPads or watching movies and stuff like that. There wasn't no cable or anything like that. It's like 3 channels. And it was a TV in her room. We weren't doing all that. So, what else? But yeah, she taught me a lot. I learned a lot of things from her. But I think the biggest thing I take away is just like, she did not have idle hands. She did not have idle hands. She was always making something. She was always creating something. She was crafty. She was an artist in her own right, you know, and in her own way. And that art adorned her home. Yeah.
Yeah, she sounds really special.
She was special. She's a special woman. She's a special woman. And I wouldn't describe her as like particularly like warm and, you know, like she's not spoken about in the same way that they speak about Albert. And that might be some of that just because of, you know, how early on he passed and everything. But she wasn't like the warm, fuzzy. Like, she'll whoop you. She didn't suffer no foolishness.
This is more from that same conversation with Al, Bill, Annie, Mattie, and Annette in Cleveland in 2018.
I just remember him as being a very calm. I can't remember him yelling at us, ever. I don't remember ever whooping me. I don't remember him ever whooping me. You know, I don't ever remember getting a whooping. And like I said, he was just very laid back, as I remember. Laid back. I don't know once the memory is that or not, but I can't ever remember him beating me with a belt. But Mama will get you, though. Mama wanted to get that peace tree switch out there, but tear your behind up.
Yeah.
Sit on your head, too.
But I don't remember him ever.
You need to tell
Ever.
the story, Bill.
Oh, well.
Mama, sit on your head.
That's what she tell me, boy, I will sit on your head and whip
She
your
would.
ass.
She said you have to get that switch from that. We have this peace tree. That's where the limbs of the peace tree 4 feet long. And I know that Mom came from a Pentecostal, fundamental, evangelical Pentecostal background. They didn't play cards. They didn't play ball on Sunday. He said, leave them boys alone. Let them play ball. Go play ball.
They didn't play checkers?
Play checkers. You know how you play jacks? She wouldn't let us have jacks game.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. I remember our brothers used to come out and they cut a watermelon and pray over the watermelon. I thought, so crazy. We just cut the watermelon, eat the watermelon.
Yeah.
They pray. My mom came from a very strong, religious, fundamental type
They were
doctrination.
They were
Said Pentecostal.
Yeah, Pentecostal.
Pentecostal.
I didn't realize that.
Yeah. And even today, she's affected by it because some of the things that she would tell me, now that I know Scripture, some of the things that she would tell me is connected to the Pentecostal. You know, Pentecostal believe that you can be saved today and lost tomorrow, pretty much, because you got off track.
Yeah.
You know, in other words, you got this track that you have to keep doing to go to heaven. And that might have had an impact on her service,
Yeah.
the service attitude that she had, you know. And I never seen her drink an alcoholic beverage or beer, nothing like that. She's living very clean, and that's all Pentecostal.
Yeah.
But she was very well indoctrinated.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think it added a fullness to her life. You know, her mother died when my grandmother was young. She was raised by her father, and you know, he never remarried, and he was in the church, you know. And so I think that was probably a good anchoring and a place of support and community for their family, you know. And something that like shaped her is what I imagine. She, you know, like my grandmother didn't drink alcohol. My grandmother didn't wear pants. There's some discipline to not wear pants.
Yes.
You live to be 100, and like I seen her in pants once when she on her 85th birthday when she came out to ride the horse because she wanted to do that. I saw her in some jeans then. And then also just like I know she went and checked on the sick. Like she, you know, she was cooking food and taking it to people. I think that's probably also how she knew some of the gossip because she would go and sit with people and check on them, you know. And so I think that like hearing that, I'm like, oh, that makes sense. Yeah, and like I mean, even just like her 100th birthday, the church coming up and the dancing, and you know, Mother Wilmer, Mother Jones, you know, like just people love her. People loved her. People appreciated her, and it was like the full her because like she was an Eastern Star, all of that. So even being there at the wake, when she had passed, and seeing like the ritual that the Eastern Stars carried out and stuff like that. And so, you know, it's by the book and they do the ritual, but then when people started talking, it was like, oh, they was talking about the real Wilmer. They was quoting some of the stuff that she was saying, had us howling, laughing, and like, ooh, you know, like there was one, and I know we recorded this, but something about like, the men in this church are ass backwards.
These men ain't nothing but pussies. They ass in backwards. And if you're going to be Baptist, be Baptist.
But like, I recorded them in my phone because I was like, let me not forget that this is what people told me, whispered to me at the back in the wake. You know, like, yeah, she said this too. There was stuff people said in the front of the room that was still like, woo, shit, she said that. And then there was what they said to me on the side. And I was like, oh, really? Yeah. Yeah. So I'm glad that she was able to be herself in that, you know, like, I feel like when she passed and people were acknowledging her life and sharing their stories, that it wasn't like, who are they talking about? You know? I was like, oh, it was clear who they were talking about. Yeah. I appreciate how people have to tap into their like Wilmer voice. She just had a distinct way of saying things, you know, and a way that she expressed herself that was hilarious at times, and she wasn't trying to be funny necessarily, you know. I think she was more funny when she wasn't trying to be than when she was. But I can remember her telling stories or like, you know, the local gossip or, you know, something like that, and just being so tickled that she could hardly get it out and having to take long pauses to laugh or get her, you know, compose herself to, you know, deliver the news or whatever. She definitely knew and had the gossip. Yeah. So a lot of times we come home and visit, and she'd be, you know, running stuff down for my parents and stuff because she has the relationships and the history. So she'd be like, oh, you know, so-and-so's daughter and da-da-da's son and da-da-da. Well, you know that's so-and-so's boy. And then she would run down some scandalous shit. And you'd be like, God dang. And she would have like the lineage receipts on it to be like, okay, well, you know what this fool did? Let me tell you who this fool belonged to. And now let me tell you what this fool done did. You know? So it's like, she would be telling these stories and be serious as a heart attack. And my dad would be cackling.
I mean, she was plugged in.
Definitely. And I guess, you know, that comes part and parcel of you checking on the sick and you checking on people and you're teaching people and you're active in your church and stuff like that. People gonna talk to you.
Right.
You're gonna be in the know, you know, like that's the OG World Wide Web right there, you know, like is that direct connection, relationships, you know, those phone calls, checking on each other, you know, so.
I've never considered gossip to be a tie that binds, but then what is gossip but an agreement to witness together, to collaboratively update the record in the archive of a social circle? Like the networks between trees and fungi, gossip creates a web of information about the people in a community, which may inform how we choose to share resources. It is one layer in the latticework of legacy. It is just one way that Wilmer made sure that all her people were remembered.
She always had a lot of pictures on the wall of family and friends and stuff like that. And so she would tell us who these people were. And she just had a great memory. She was sharp until the end. You know, she just had a great recall of people and neighbors and fellow farmers and who owned this and what was there. And she was a library. She was a wealth of knowledge. She was a big tree, you know? Yeah.
Not long after her 100th birthday in 2019, the last of Wilma's siblings, Kenneth Gwynn, passed away. He'd lived in Memphis, which is about an hour and change north of Foxfire. So all of Bill's siblings, except Winston, the oldest, came down from Cleveland to pay their respects at the funeral. Uncle Kenneth was a veteran, buried in a veteran's cemetery. After the church service, which was full of song, he received a military burial. Later, back at the ranch, all the siblings, Bill, Al, Dolores, and Vivian, and cousin Shenitha, and Annie, of course, and Grandma Wilma, and Selah, and Ida, and Annette, and I, we all gathered back at Foxfire in the cabin, where most of the action is in the Hollowell home. I met this part of the family just this one time. Wilma sat quietly in a wheelchair all afternoon, sometimes dozing and sometimes simply sitting, taking in the scene. Her kids, meanwhile, most of whom are grandparents now, were giddy to recall their childhood in the hill country.
Well, what I remember most about the house living there is that we kept cotton in the house.
You sure
Remember
did.
that?
I remember that. That room in between the two rooms, that's why they would put all the cotton.
You kept the cotton dry.
We used to dive into it.
I'll tell you.
Based on the one picture I've seen of Albert Hollowell, Uncle Al bears a striking resemblance to his father, from his glasses to the shape of his face. He was about 11 when his father died. You can probably tell that Al likes to talk, but I think he really likes to talk about his dad.
But he wasn't a hunter or fisherman or nothing like that. But what he did do, though, he was a local veterinarian. Mm-hmm. Somebody's mule gets sick, cow, dog, whatever. He had all these needles and the medication. I don't know where he got it from, but he was the one that would take care of the livestock. You'd always come and get him. He'd take care.
That's a gift to have.
And I think that's where that love of animals come from.
Yeah. Skip me, because you know I don't like it.
Well, that's part of the legacy, though.
That's why your father left home early.
He didn't dress like a farmer. I've never seen him wear a pair of jeans or overalls. It just wasn't him.
What was his uniform?
He wore khaki pants. He wore dress pants. Stacey Adams shoes. Don Bush. He loved hats. Mm-hmm. He smoked cigars. Mm-hmm. He smoked a pipe too. He let me smoke a cigar too. He let me smoke his pipe. But he would tell me, you have to, the cigar, it was chewing tobacco. Occasionally he would chew tobacco too. He said, now I'm going to give you some tobacco, but you got to swallow it. Ugh. I got drunk as a skunk. And he said, you can smoke the cigar, but you have to inhale it. That's why I don't smoke today. And he loved coffee. He used to let me drink coffee with him. And you get a cup. Mama had to fix me a cup. I fill it with sugar and cream. And when he died, she said, now you're going to have your last cup of coffee. I ain't buying no coffee for you. So this is going to be your last. But I always drink coffee with him. That's how I remember it. Mm-hmm. He loved his coffee, cigars, and pipe.
I appreciate the details and remembering the details, because I feel like, there's been so many times throughout this process too where it's like, the ancestors are speaking and stuff like that. So in thinking about building a relationship with Albert Hollowell and thinking about offerings and thinking about altar, it's like, okay, coffee. Like, especially as I go through periods where I'm like, my altar is activated and I'm feeding it and I'm watering it and I'm nurturing it and I'm sitting with it. And then I go through periods where I'm like thinking about doing it and everything surrounding the altar is cluttered like it currently is now. And, and I've got stuff on my desk and laundry and just stuff everywhere. Like, I hope it's instructive for my children too, and down the line. Like, I hope that they, when they're thinking about their own path and seeking guidance and connection to people that they never met, but they carry in them, that they know that a starting place might be a picture, that some of it might come from these stories we've been gathering, and a hot cup of coffee, and maybe a puff of a cigar, which I don't smoke cigars. I was like, maybe I need to, when I'm really trying to, fully activate something or really connect or offer up, like, it might be time to puff a cigar. I'm not chewing no tobacco. No. So but I could put it on the altar. I can put it out there, Yeah. And then also, even like down to how he dressed, I don't know. I think there's something. What a gift to be able to like have some insights into people's like choice of how they express themselves out in the world, or how they, adorn themselves out in the world.
Any given patch of soil is composed of many parent materials. Bits of rock, decomposing plants and animals, manure. What the soil is made of is only one component of what makes it nourishing to the plants and animals in its care. Beyond that is the collaboration between particles, how they fit and work together, how they stand to weather erosion. It is easy as a parent to leave a mark on a child's life. But how the mark is made is just as important as the impression itself.
There's that nurturing tone kind of like it kind of informs all of the conversations around him. But it leads me to think that that it's accurate.
Yeah.
It leads me to think that it's because that's what was left in them from how he loved them and reared them and cared for them. And my grandmother always said he was a good man and he treated her well. So I'm glad to know that about him, and I'm glad that like the gifts and the vision around securing this land for his family that he loved and nurtured and cared for, like that it came from a person like that. It could have come from someone who was like ruthless and took advantage of somebody else to get the land and for their own gain, own personal gain and stuff like that. And it seems like he didn't operate in that way, which is cool. And I think it's also like he was able to do that, and this land is with us 100 years later. Like, we don't have to be ruthless. We don't have to be vicious. We don't have to try and absorb and consume everything around us. We don't have to try and monopolize or like, every time the land comes up next door, swipe it. Like, we don't have to operate in that way. It's enough to nurture the people and the animals and the place, and perhaps that's enough to be able to look up at 100 years and still say we're still here.
Today you heard from Bill and Annie Hollowell, Annie's sister Connie, Annette, Al, and Shenitha Hollowell, and Wilma Gwynn Hollowell Faulkner Jones. Interviews today by Annette Hollowell, Jay Williams, and myself. This episode featured music by Memphissippi Sounds, Lucius Smith and Sid Hemphill, courtesy of the Association for Cultural Equity, and myself. Sound design by Muthi Reed, assisted by Cedric Wilson, who also mixed the episode. Our virtual altar was brought to life by Alleyha Dannett of Ancient Future Fourest, with photography by Jay Williams and Jasmine B. Johnson. Our house historian is Rhondalyn Peairs. We Are the Promised Land is produced by me, Free for All, in collaboration with Annette Hollowell. Special thanks to the Center for the Study of Southern Culture at the University of Mississippi, the Yoknapatawpha Arts Council, and the Mississippi Presenters Network, and to the Association for Cultural Equity. We Are the Promised Land is made possible by generous support from the National Performance Network, the Mississippi Center for Cultural Production, Carpetbag Theater, the National Black Food and Justice Alliance, the Center for the Gulf South at Tulane, the Pantaria Foundation, the New Orleans Jazz and Heritage Foundation, Alternate Roots, the Big We Foundation, the Mississippi Humanities Council, and with financial assistance from the National Park Service and the Mississippi Hills Heritage Area Alliance. Thanks so much for tuning in today. If you didn't already know, this audio altar is but one portion of our homage to the Hill Country's Black land legacies. For photographs, visual art, poetry, and more, please visit our altar online. You can find the link in our show notes.